Spreaker.com. If you want to call in and talk to me or talk to Johnny Maloris, it's 585-633-7487. Again, that is 585-633-7487. Back here with John Maloris. Johnny, I'm probably should be talking about football right now, but the New York Giants are losing 20-0, so we're not touching football this week on this show. So,
that's good.
Yeah, but we will talk about the San Francisco Giants. 2-2 right now with the Cardinals. What's your take on? What's your prediction right now for this Giants Cardinals series with the way it's going right now? Is this going the full 7?
Yeah. I think this probably has the most potential to be, one of the longer drawn out battles, just because of the fact that, you do have some pretty good pitching staffs going up against each other. They're both teams that are capable of hitting. It is unfortunate that, Brandon Belt's kind of dealing with some lingering issues, and so are several other guys. No Matt Cain, Angel Pagan, he's out too. So, yeah, there's, they're down a little bit, but, for whatever reason, even having 5 rookies on the squad, they're still able to kind of hang in there. It's just kind of working through all those injuries. Joe Panic's been great. Brandon Crawford has really kind of developed over the last couple of years. I think he's one of these guys where, he kind of came into, the playoff teams, and so he kind of, got that experience at a really young age, and so it kind of helped him develop a little bit quicker. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good ball club, you know what I mean, especially with Buster Posey behind the dish, doing as much as he does for the team. So it'll be interesting to see how these two pitching staffs are able to kind of go at each other.
Wainwright, there's a lot of concern over his elbow, dead arm, a lot of concern over him. How concerned are you with Adam Wainwright?
I would be, just for them knowing that, he is such a strong part of their team, and, knowing the fact that, he's just been, so nasty, for a good part of the year, and that wasn't necessarily, the dominant Wainwright that we're used to, but, he's just such a great starter to have, such a great number one. His curveball's phenomenal, where it just drops so hard, and, you'd hate to, to know that, if he does, if he is really hurting right now, how you're going to kind of handle that. You know what I mean? That's going to be your guy coming up, later on in the series. You pretty much, are almost guaranteed to need him. And so, yeah, that would be pretty devastating. But just knowing the fact that, they develop pitchers as well as they do have guys that are kind of ready, that would be able to fill in if needed. But we'll see where it goes. But I would be concerned for sure.
With Wainwright, I would be far more concerned, if this was, it's late in the season. So, I'm kind of used to these kind of late season dead arm, all that stuff. But looking at him, and looking at the Cardinals in general, they're able to rebound from this type of stuff. When Carpenter was starting to break down at the end of his career, Wainwright stepped up in the playoffs even. And then, there's going to be a guy that steps up. The guy, they did trade away some good pieces, and the pieces they brought back with, Lackey and Justin Masterson, those pieces might not step up. But do you see somebody else in this Cardinals rotation that could step up and make up for the Wainwright, breaking down here late in his career, or not even late in his career, just breaking down right now?
Yeah, well, I think a big part of that, you mentioned John Lackey. I think that is a guy that would, knowing, how much experience he does have, and the fact that, he won a World Series game in his rookie season. Again, another one of those guys that kind of came up with the, the playoff mentality, so he kind of learned quick. And as much as I don't really care for his personality all that much, I have to say that, when it does come postseason time, he does tend to step up quite a bit. And so I think, if anybody's capable, having him there as a veteran with all the playoff experience that he does have, he's definitely a guy that would probably be able to counter, having, losing Wainwright, and kind of being able to lead them through, this series.
Or with the San Francisco Giants, their rotation, a little beat up this year. Looking at them, what's the key for them pitching wise to get through this series and, to win the World Series? What's the key for them pitching wise? Who is the key?
Well, pretty much, I think Vogelsong, I love his story, the fact that he went and, played in Japan for a while, dealt with, some injuries, over the course of his career. He's kind of been a guy that's been able to battle, and another guy who's kind of been there, done that, has pitched in these big games, and he was so dominant, last season. So we'll kind of see the way that works out for them. But, he can come into the middle of the series here, and kind of give them, a little bit of help, knowing that you'll have Baumgartner there, knowing that you won't have Kane, which hurts them. But, no, I really like, what Vogelsong does. He does a really good fastball, between about 89 to 93 miles an hour, so he kind of is able to kind of change it up a little bit. But he also, that pitches a lot of run and a lot of sink on it, so it kind of dives away from hitters, which works out for him. So he gets a lot of ground balls, and he does a really tight curveball. So, he does have a really good repertoire, to kind of work with and kind of play with some of these batters, and hopefully, get through games pretty quick, because, Cardinals, they do tend to put the ball in play a bit. But if they are putting these, a lot of those running and those diving pitches on the ground, it's going to be a pretty quick ball game for San Francisco.
I know you are kind of a baseball purist and you like to see baseball played the right way and all that stuff, and you're not a huge fan of steroids like I am. But you look at, with the Cardinals, they bring players up through their organization. They do a bunch of crap that is quote unquote doing it the right way. But they still spent a fair share amount of money. I mean, it's not like this is a team that's pinching pennies or anything where they have to. I mean, they offered Albert. They would have paid Albert the money he got from the Angels. It was a couple of years less, but they would have paid that kind of money for Albert. So the whole perception that the Cardinals, weren't going to pay that money to Albert is crap to me. And the other thing with the Cardinals is they have this, look down at everybody else and how they run their organization. Does it piss you off as a baseball fan, just how they act like they do everything right? And, it just bothers me. I hate hearing about how they do things the right way because I really don't they're lucky more so than they're good.
Well, I don't know if they're necessarily lucky. I mean, I think they've done, like how you said, go about doing things the right way in terms of drafting and all that, but you do need to do both. You need to, spend the money, but you also need to just be able to do that to augment your team, you know what I mean? And where you can go out there and get a big pitcher if you need one and get a big hitter if you need one, whatever you need to do. You'll have the resources there, but the whole point is having the next man up, or there's always somebody ready in the system somewhere, someone coming up, pushing somebody else out of town. So I think that's the way they're able to maintain, a relatively, respectable payroll, the fact that they do have guys that they're able to move around, just because they don't need to spend the money because they have someone else right there that's going to be able to do it. And they will pay though to keep guys around. So that's that's the whole thing. That's how they're able to be, in the postseason every year. Having that sustained success has a lot, of having flexibility in terms of, being able to move players around and also, being able to make those, those big signings when you have to.
With the Cardinals, so it doesn't bother you hearing about it, or does it?
No, it doesn't really bother me. I guess it can kind of get annoying, you know what I mean? Especially, but I mean, you kind of get that with every fandom where, they kind of think, their team's run the right way, this and that. But obviously, I'll admit it, the St. Louis fans are pretty loud about it and, pretty adamant that, they do things the right way. But, honestly, it's a really great franchise. I mean, they've done a great job keeping every level of that organization together.
You're just a Cardinals kiss ass is what you are.
No way, man. I got to do the Cubs stuff. I am impartial, sir. Impartial to the max.
Well, what's your prediction for the way this series is going to finish out?
Well, I do like all the experience that San Francisco brings to the table, but again, like I said, they're dealing with a lot of lingering issues, in terms of injuries. They kind of thrived on pitching and defense, and so that does kind of help them in terms of lasting through the postseason. So I wouldn't be surprised, know that they have enough pieces, but I'm not sure if their bullpen is really up to the task. When it comes down to it, their bench is relatively good, but they do probably have a better offense than they did when they had the World Series team. In terms of having Posey being as effective as he is. Same thing with Hunter Pence. So I mean, we'll see. But honestly, when I think it comes down to it, it's probably going to come down to St. Louis, taking over. Like I said, with having losing Wainwright if they do, I just think John Lackey is going to be up to the test for whatever reason. He always seems to show up big in the postseason, especially in the biggest of the games. So I'm going to give him that. Gives them a little bit of extra depth. And having 23 shutouts led the majors this year. That a lot of credit for that goes to the fact that they have a really solid bullpen. They have a bunch of guys in terms of specialists. They have a couple other guys that can go a little bit deeper. Having Michael Wacha down there. And so it's it's a good looking ball club. And I really like as a catcher. I love Yadier Molina. So I mean that's always helps them. In terms of developing their pitchers, but also game planning. He's great in that, and in terms of knowing how to approach these hitters, and knowing their hitting styles, who are the more aggressive guys, and just having him behind the plate and that brain is a major asset to the team. Not to mention everything else he does defensively and with his bat.
Back, the story of the National League isn't really the Cardinals or the Giants. It's the fact that the Dodgers spent the most money and choked, and Kershaw is considered a choker now. I don't think it's so much, Kershaw being a choker. His troubles have been against the Cardinals, as much as I hate to say it. What is it with? What do you think it is with Kershaw? Do you think he is, a choke artist right now, or do you think it's just the Cardinals are a bad matchup for him?
Yeah, I think it could be, a little bit of in terms of just having bad luck against the Cardinals. Just for whatever reason, their hitting philosophy in terms of being patient and kind of knowing the strike zone as well as they do, they're able to, get to them, a lot of times. When you look at Carpenter, he's pretty much all his home runs have been off lefties. So, that's kind of, one of the things I guess you can kind of mention. But I think something that people forget is, how much the Dodgers rely on him. And I think, as good as he is in the fact that, he doesn't really break down all that often, they let him pitch deep into games. And I think when it does come down to the end of the season, that does wear on him a little bit, having thrown as many innings as he does and leading the league and everything else. That all comes with innings pitched, and so even though he is efficient, he is able to kind of, pitch, as many complete games as he wants to and still keep it around 100 pitches, that obviously helps him, but it's still, I think this over the course of the season, it is a little bit too much, so they might want to ease up on him, going into next season, and hopefully he won't have to face the Cardinals again.
What is it, with the Dodgers, this happens every year. The Cardinals face some team that has a higher budget than them, and then they beat them in the playoffs, and it's like, oh, well, money doesn't conquer all. And, I don't have a huge problem with the Dodgers spending all the money they have. Spend all the money you want. The problem with the Dodgers is they just, they should have made a move down the stretch for somebody in the bullpen. They didn't. And it cost them, when Brian Wilson's washed up and pretty much everything in their bullpen is washed up, things aren't going to end well for you. What do you think the Dodgers need to do going forward? Obviously Mattingly's coming back. Do they need to get rid of Coletti? Do they need to clean house? What do they need to do?
I don't know. I mean, Coletti's kind of been on the, on the wire for a while, same thing with Mattingly here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Mattingly go. I mean, you're likely